Or I can edit something
Okay.
that's that is going. All right. These are actually a lot of these questions aren't necessarily questions I was going to
That's
ask. First off, what would be done for people who are already partaking in aberrant behavior? I mean, I understand the old method of getting to the root causes to get people to, be in harmony and peace, but not everybody is necessarily starting from the beginning. So, for the people who are already conditioned, per se, to partake in that sort of aberrant behavior, I'm not a fan of the prison system or police or anything like that, but what are your thoughts on the people who are already displaying and partaking in that sort of unwanted or aberrant behavior, if that's what you would call it?
I still don't understand your question. Can you pinpoint it? What do you do with the people that are not pro this system?
Well, not necessarily not just pro this system, but people who have already been living in the sort of society that we are now, you know what I'm saying? So that they can't start, they can't necessarily, we're not, I'm going to say,
I understand what you mean. People who are not necessarily involved in this type of thinking, conventional, very conventional. I'm going to try to answer you. If I fail, you have to let me know. Say you didn't answer that, okay?
I will let you know.
Otherwise,
I will do my best to be brutally honest.
Years ago, when I first started designing the culture, I asked myself the same questions. How are you going to get to them? And I worked out different systems. And then I said to myself, thinking is talking to yourself. If I say, I'll see you Saturday, you look off and say, I got to take the kids to Aunt Minnie's. No, I can't make it. So thinking is talking to yourself. It's nothing mysterious. So I said to myself, how are you going to get to all these people that think differently, have totally different value systems, that have totally different concepts of God? They don't agree with one another. So years ago, 45 years or 55, I joined the Ku Klux Klan, and I dissolved it in a month and a half to test the system, to see if it works.
Yeah, I actually watched a bit of, or listened to a bit of an interview where you were talking about that.
I joined the White Citizens Council. That's another group against foreigners, and I dissolved it in 1 month alone. And then I asked a lot of different questions, and I tried intercepting different groups, and I've had no trouble. Now, here's how we change people. Through a motion picture called And the World Will Be One. We want to make that film. And that's a film that explains the Venus Project on different levels. People who are at different levels of comprehension. So that motion picture will set a lot of questions in motion. People will ask all kinds of questions, And so that's what we want to do. The motion picture is a stimulus for asking questions. So now, you asked me for the method would be a motion picture. What does that motion picture contain? It contains bits that the average person doesn't have, such as, if you were raised as a baby by the headhunters of the Amazon, never saw anything else, you'd be a headhunter.
I'd be a headhunter of the Amazon.
Unless you've read or traveled a lot.
You can only know what you learn.
Yes. Okay. Now, if I approach you and said, unless you've seen this on TV, if I said, doesn't it bother you to have 10 shrunken heads? You might say, yes, my brother has 20. Depends on where you're coming from. I'm trying to tell you there are no good or bad people. There are people that reflect their culture. If you're brought up in the deep south, a rural area, out in the country, you might have a southern accent. There's nothing you can do about it, because that's all you hear. You may have southern expressions, southern mannerisms, southern attitudes. You might even say, I'm going to get me a nigger, I'm going to kick his ass in. To you, that would be normal conversation.
Right.
So from my point of view, there are no good or bad people. There are people that reflect their culture no matter how evil you think they are, if you were brought up in a Nazi culture as a baby, all you see is Heil Hitler, Deutschland over alles, Germany above all. If that's all you see, that's what you reflect. That man is not an individual, that's bullshit put out by the culture. Individuality. If you met an individual, you wouldn't know how to relate to him. So most people that conform to this culture ever since you're knee-high. What's the greatest country in the world? I don't know. The good old USA.
Right.
And you pledge allegiance to the flag, the institutions, the history. If you're brought up in France, it's the same way. Brought up in Germany or Scotland, same thing. So we are not individual, nor are we free. The more books you read, the more different people you encounter, the broader your point of view. And the broader your point of view, the tendency to be ostracized by your own civilization is right there. So what we try to present is the conditions that shape our values. Do you understand my language? And so if you show people the conditions that shape their values, then they're more apt to question it. They don't even know it's so unconscious, fed so gently through motion pictures, television, newspapers. It molds people in such a gentle way they can't feel it.
Sure does.
It's Big Brother working on it.
More or less.
So what the Venus Project attempts to do, I don't know if we can do it. Right now, we're headed downhill. Our universities are better equipped than ever. The wars are getting worse, and the destructive capability is getting worse. So there's something wrong with our universities. They're missing a certain essential point. Whereas scientists today,
Mike won't pick that up from that distance, will it?
You sure?
whereas scientists today, some of them are working on terraforming other planets. You know about that?
Oh yeah.
You? While this one's falling apart, they got to be pretty stupid people. They ought to be working on this one first. Because this one, we're polluting the oceans, killing the fish, the atmosphere. We've got hundreds of satellites out there spinning around, and they have been so brainwashed. I'm talking about technicians. They're focused in mechanical engineering, chemistry, aeronautics, and they can't talk to each other. And that's exactly what this culture would like, to make specialists so they can use them. You're in electronics, we need a warhead that'll split up. One go to Germany, the other to France. They find that fascinating, the electronics people, to solve that problem. They're only the stupidity of government. We have 300 submarines. Each one has more destructive power than all the wars in history. Where can you go with that?
You go nowhere.
So they've got to be
fast.
pretty stupid people out there. Meaning they're brought up not to think or reason. I don't believe humans can think or reason. They only think within their culture, within the range made available. If they start thinking outside of that, you'll get a lot of static from your friends. It's human nature. Humans have no nature. Depends on where they're brought up. All that bullshit about human nature, and the geneticists today are trying to find the gay gene, or they're trying to find the Republican gene. They're really stupid people because they're not well enough informed. So the schools of the future will produce a generalist, meaning although you might be an electrical engineer, you'll know enough about human behavior, sociology, anthropology, environmental engineering. You'll be broad enough so no one can use you to make weapons or anything else. Am I going too fast for you?
No. I actually, I absorb information pretty well when I want to.
You want to try some other questions?
Yeah, actually, as far as conditioning goes, do you believe that there is a sort of, I guess, how do I say this, like a point of no return where somebody has received so much conditioning that it's...
There are people that are difficult to change, might take 10 years or 4 years or 3 years or an hour and a half, depending on where they're at. But if they've been conditioned one way, they can be turned around, like I turned around. I'll I'll give you an idea later if you want to know how I did it, if you're interested.
Oh, yeah. I would be interested in hearing anything you have to say.
Okay, so go on with it. Yes, they can be turned around.
So you don't think there is a
It's not
point of no
worth the
return?
effort, though. Sometimes a guy comes in here, and I say, who do you think of as great, more than anyone in the world? He said, One Punch Malone. He knocked the guy out one punch. That's a 15-year project. I don't take it off. Okay, it depends on where they're at. Okay.
I first...
You're trying to get both of them in? You're going to get nothing but a white background.
You see that?
You have to zoom in.
Where was my train of thought?
Here.
Actually, whatever I get on video is fine today, but I would actually like the opportunity, maybe in a few months, to come back with actual more professional film equipment. I've actually I've signed up for this. It's like a film workshop where I get to learn more about the creation of film, and I actually get the opportunity to rent actual really professional equipment. So I would, I mean, if it's all right with you guys, maybe in a few months try to.
We'll see then. We may not be here.
Oh yeah, I had noticed the for sale sign. You guys relocating? You're not giving up on us, right?
No, we're just moving our project to Ecuador.
To Ecuador? Any particular reason why?
We're going to probably South America, and then we're going to Ecuador and other places. Okay. Far away.
Yeah, are these transitional? Or do they leave them here and sell them with the property? These
No, none of
If
this
you
stuff
guys want to
gets
use the
sold.
washroom,
That's all
there's
ours.
a washroom here.
Whoever buys the land probably won't be interested in the Venus project.
Right,
We're just selling the land.
right.
We're not attached to the land. We'll just
Mhm.
continue the project no matter where we are.
But these can be split and
The buildings? No, they
We
stay.
didn't get his questions out lots before these people come.
Okay, I had first heard you, or about your project through the Zeitgeist Addendum, the film on the internet, and watching the film, there were a lot of quotes from a lot of people that I would just assume Peter Joseph has got inspiration from, and people that I would just assume helped shape the ideas that he has now. Were there any people in particular that helped, I would guess, help you see the way you see the world, or your views or philosophy? I mean, a person doesn't just come up with their ideas on their own.
You're right. My grandfather was quite a humanist, and in certain areas he was intelligent, other areas he was primitive. But the areas that he was brought in, he said America achieved what it had achieved because people came from all over the world with many different ideas. We even speak butched English, so the language isn't our own. So we're comprised of many interrelated value systems. I can only say my grandfather made it impossible for me to pledge allegiance to the flag, since I realized that people influence us from all over. And there are certain things that are pleasant about this country, other things are not. And the same for all countries. My grandfather was a major influence in upsetting my reaction to pledge allegiance to the flag. Later on, of course, Einstein said patriotism is a disease that divides people. I don't know how much of that he understood himself, but I refused to pledge allegiance to the flag when I was about 11 and a half or 12, and the teacher didn't inquire why or anything, just grabbed me by the ear right to the principal's office. I figured she was unsane, not insane. Unsane means a mixed up value system. The principal said to the teacher, "You're excused." Then he put his arm around me and said, "Why don't you want to pledge allegiance?" And I said, "Because we owe so much to so many different countries."
Indeed.
He said, "Well, what do you think of American history?" I said, "I think it's fake, because everybody says the right thing all the people who passed did everything they did was okay. I don't believe there is such a society or such a person. So I said, they don't appear real to me. So he said, what do you think of our country? I said, I think we stole it, the Indians, we stole New Mexico and California, and after we stole all the land we needed, we put up the sign, thou shalt not steal. We're no better, no worse than any other country. They're all corrupt, including our own. He said, I'm going to have to call your mother in. I didn't give a damn. So my mother came in crying. What did he do? He said, he didn't do anything. I don't think we have a place in our school for Jacque. So I'm going to take him to a bookstore and buy him whatever books he wants to read and let him read that in the classroom. And my mother said, well, if he doesn't take standard training, how will he earn a living? And the principal said, I don't think you have to worry about that. Anyway, what happened, the principal said to me, well, don't you want to be an engineer or an architect or a doctor or a lawyer? I said, no, I want to do whatever comes to me, whatever I'm interested in. Why do I have to be this or that? He said, well, you got to be something. I said, that's your training. I said, Da Vinci did whatever he wanted to do. And all you heard about was his ideas, but you didn't hear about the people he associated with. That talk of gears and levers, which is left out of all that, which doesn't give people a true picture of the person. You know what I mean? All you hear about is ideas. They say he was ahead of his time. I don't believe that. I believe the times were behind.
When
Roxanne?
She left the room,
I
the building.
think she's no longer in.
She went outside?
Yes.
It does seem like when you learn about these people like Da Vinci and stuff, it's just an assumption that they came up with the ideas out of thin air,
All
as
false.
if they just grabbed it out of
He
the
probably
sky.
grabbed
All
something from
false.
somebody here, something
Yeah.
from somebody there.
They pick it up just as you do.
One of the
Does that
philosophies.
answer your question?
Yes. It's one of the philosophies I try to live by is absorb that which is useful and just reject that which is not. I just sort of.
Okay, let me just take
I'll
it
listen
one
to
more
everybody.
thing.
Yeah.
That principal let me do what I want to do for a year and a half. I was beaten up by the other kids because he roped off the back and he let me do what I would. They resented that. So they beat me up. I can understand that. I'm not against them. He lived about a year and a half thereafter, then he died. And they took that privilege away. And I never went back to school. I just want you to know that. There's a lot of conventional things I don't know.
It doesn't really matter to me, but out of curiosity,
telling
how
you what,
far did you get?
I hitchhiked in the middle of the terrible depression, the big one. And I saw goods in store windows, all kind of radios, but I saw about, must have been thousands of people sleeping in every empty lot. They made down payments on homes and cars, and the banks failed. I'm sure you know about that. And they couldn't pay them all. So the bank said, you got 3 weeks. Out. And they put them out, all kinds of nice people. Every empty lot was filled with thousands of people, millions all over the country. And I looked around, it was a nice sunny day, and I said, everything's the same. How come now everybody's out of work? The rules of the game must be bad. Whatever system they designed obviously didn't work. Now, I know you don't know this, but the veterans of World War I were promised $600 when I got out of the Army to start life anew. And the government didn't have any money. They too were broke. So they gave my IOUs. And the veterans said, we can't eat that. So they marched on Washington, thousands of them. We want our pensions now, you promised that. And they were sleeping all over around the Capitol. I mean thousands. Well, at that time about 15,000. All those that can afford to go to Washington. So then Douglas MacArthur was in charge of the Army then. And he had them throw tear gas at the veterans to get them the hell out. It looked bad. all these veterans sleeping.
And American heroes at
So
one
Douglas
point in time.
MacArthur ordered the tear gas thing. And when I was a kid, that looked rotten to me. Okay? Then I realized something else. Were you guys ever in the Army?
No.
Or when they draft you for the Army, you put up your life for this country. They should draft all the war industries so no one makes a buck out of war. Then it's real. But if I sell submarines and battleships, machine guns, I become a multi-millionaire. Then war is slanted. Do you understand? Total conscription. So people in the war industries don't make any more than the soldiers. And the government conscripts those industries, then after the war it gives it back. So no one makes a buck. Then it's free.
War is a
Do you
business.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you talk to soldiers, don't tell them that they're fighting for oil, they think you're unpatriotic. Just tell them about total conscription. That'll turn them around fast. Another thing, I work for aircraft companies, and a friend of mine was a pilot in World War I, and he told me he flew over German munition dumps and was ordered not to bomb it. He flew over 8 times the Krupp munition dumps. He was right over it. He was ordered not to bomb it. He couldn't understand that. It was after the war. I'm sure you heard of Fortune magazine. Mm-hmm. They did publish Arms and the Men, showing how DuPont had holdings in I.J. Farben, a German company. So he was ordered not to bomb it.
I've actually read that.
Oh, I'm glad.
I've read that in a David Icke book.
That makes it impossible for them to control you. If you understand these things, the average soldier knows nothing. I mean nothing at all. And he gets out there with these patriotic notions about bringing democracy. We've never had a democracy. Oh, that's bullshit too. In a democracy, if you can accept this, our president would criticize another country for as long as he wanted, say an hour and a half. And we would say, are you through? And he says, yes. Anything else you want to add? No. Then we would invite the prime minister of that country on the air for an hour and a half. That's democracy. Mm-hmm. Then I invite the prime minister of Sweden. So they're both full of shit. This is how I say it. That's a democracy. When you got religion on the air only, there's something wrong with your culture. It has to be atheism, agnosticism, all different religions, but you turn it on or off. That's a democracy. Have you ever seen that? You might have a liberal station here, but you don't have a democracy. Another person said to me, well, I believe in participation.
Couldn't you use radio as a basis stating that, yes, we do have some sort of a democracy because you can flip the stations and you will hear one genre, you will hear talk radio, you will hear something else that's not all the same?
It's all the same general, broad, perspective, you know? It's not like...
Yeah. Because it's being advertised probably by the same people.
I mean, you can call them different, but it all sort of falls along the same.
This system sings the American song. Mm. On the whole,
more or
there
less,
are
yeah.
a few stations.
I definitely agree with that.
But anyway, you guys can work out your differences. So a person said to me, "Will I be able to participate in the future society? I believe in participatory democracy." I said, "Did you vote for the space program? Did you have anything to do with it?" He said, "No." "Did you vote for the layout of our highways, freeways, schools, Capitol building, anything at all, airline regulating?" "No." "Where do you participate?" "I just don't know." The guy said, "Well, I voted for them." "You didn't. They picked the guys you vote for.
Yeah.
They're selected by democratic clubs and all that sing the song of the institutions. But they don't say, "I want my next door neighbor. Seems like a nice guy." If he doesn't have the money to participate, he can. So industry puts up most of the money, and you have to sing their song when you get in. Mm-hmm. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. So in a true democracy, all kinds of points of view are on the air. The average person, all kinds of things. And the public, never heard so many ideas. If you had a democracy, you have like 4,000 political parties. Do you understand what I mean? You couldn't have a Democrat, Republican. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't have a democracy because I don't know you, but I don't think you drive the kind of car you want to drive. You drive what you can afford. Is that true?
We drive what's best for my family, actually. Size-wise, fuel efficiency.
You don't live in the kind of house you want to live in. You live in what you can afford.
Yes.
So in a democracy, being a Democrat, you still don't have a democratic selection of what you want, unless you live in a resource-based economy, where everyone has access to whatever they need. Now, I spoke at Princeton about this, and a young kid got up and said, I dislike your system intensely. I said, I can't do anything with that unless you tell me what it is you don't like about it. He said, you want to give people things for nothing, and I'm against that. So I said, were you born in America? He said, yes. You got the railway, the telephone, television, radio, all that for nothing, just being born here. You didn't work on it. Does that spoil you? He said, yeah, but I think if you give people things for nothing, it will kill incentive. So I said, I've got to ask you a personal question. Are you paying your way through college? He said, well, my dad is. Does that spoil you? Mm-hmm. There's enough for nothing. When a woman marries a wealthy guy, she's got servants, a new car, just by marrying a wealthy guy. She gets it for nothing. Nobody ever questions that. Now, if you're screwing around with two women at the same time, you're called Don Juan by men. If women screw around with two guys, they're tramps. Who wrote the book? The men.
Probably.
They're full of shit too. So the country you live in is rotten to the core. So is all other countries. I'm not opposing this one. So this kid, I said to him, do you really believe people ought to not get anything for nothing? He says, yes. I says, I understand you. Your father is loaded. He's a rich guy. Kid says, yes, he is. When he dies, you want his money to go to the heart fund and the cancer fund, not to you, because you don't believe. He said, just a minute. Well, they laughed him off the platform. He's a stupid guy, you know, not well-rounded. So, will people lose their incentive if they given things for nothing? You're born on the earth, a beautiful land, all for nothing. And you hunted animals, all for nothing. And then we loused up the environment, dumped nerve gas and radioactive material into the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. I don't know if you know this. 45 years ago, the Army dumped 65 tons of nerve gas off the coast of Miami near the Gulf Stream. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Did you?
I heard a little something about
Well,
that.
if you don't know these things, it's rough for me. But you can look it up. You got an internet, you got a laptop, look it up. I don't want you to take my word for anything. So there used to be in Santa Barbara, California, a group of college professors started the Center for the Study of Democratic Institutions. The literature that they put out was that the United States, this is like 20 years ago, is the most corrupt country in the world at that time. That's the literature they put out. Of course, they fell, but they became unpopular.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
So I just want you to know what happens. Now, I'm going to repeat some of these things to the other people, but that's not going to hurt you. Okay. I just wanted you to know that the things I talk about have nothing to do with what I'd like personally. They have to do with, years ago I said, can you design a society that has minimum corruption, minimum payoffs, you know, so you have to do away with money. Otherwise it won't work. Because we pay off senators, you know, I don't know if you know this, if a corporation puts a lot of money, gets you into power, you've got to take care of that. Yeah. So it won't work. So I want to do away with the money system. Here's what that means. If both you guys are stranded on an island, say your ship sunk, and he has $10 million, you have diamonds, gold, jewels, and the island has no water, no fish, and no arable land. You have nothing. Do you understand that? You're brought up to believe money is everything. It's nothing. What counts as resources? The next thing you brought up to believe in, maybe if we elected ethical people in the government all over the world, we wouldn't have the trouble. Even if you succeeded in electing the most ethical people in the world, you got them out of church, wherever you want them from. Absolutely ethical. If you ran out of resources, be lying, cheating, stealing, and robbery. Do you understand that? So it isn't ethical people that we need. Ralph Nader is very ethical. I asked him, what would you do for this, that, the other? He had no idea. A nice guy, by the way. Not corruptible. He won't take money. But he doesn't know what to do. Your congressmen, all of them, know nothing. They don't know what to do. That's why they make laws. Don't say no to drugs. That's infantile type stuff. Has nothing to do with anything. So congressmen, they say, well, what are you going to do about the crowded freeways? Well, we'll build more freeways. Well, it's really, they don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you what to do. First of all, it isn't money that people need. It's access to the necessities of life. Is that right?
Yes.
They need access to universities, education, without having to pay or owe money.
Yeah, but then to get to
What's that?
they need access to life and necessities, wouldn't
I
it?
couldn't hear you.
When you said that they need access to life and necessities,
Yes.
don't they just need access to intelligence, just to know exactly how to get said necessities?
You mean, how do we build that up?
Yeah, how do you just say
Okay,
go out
that's
and do
another
this?
question. Okay, I'm just telling you what people need now. The other question is, we have to visit all nations and present the Venus Project to them and invite their participation in this concept. Declare all of the Earth's resources the common heritage of all the world's people. After all, where did England get all that land? They took it by force and violence. They were called conquerors. If they lost, they were thieves. You know, that's where Rome, France, England became great nations, because they took over the surrounding little nations. You understand that? Okay. Once they did that, they worked for their own interests. The UN has nothing to do with the benefit of humanity. Has a what's in it for our nation if we join, or watch out if any other nation tries to take advantage, the other nations theoretically can stop them. So all nations need clean air, clean water, arable land, nutritious food, and a relevant education. So we invite them to join the United Nations toward a common global direction, namely the restoration of the environment and upgrading all human beings to their highest potential without a price tag. We have more than enough resources. I'm going to try to prove it to you. When World War II came into existence, U.S. was broke. It was a depression. Didn't have the money. So we sent Lindbergh to Germany. We sent him there because he was received well, but to observe what's going on in Germany. He came back and said the Germans are turning out 3,000 planes a month. We had 600 first-class fighting airplanes in good condition. The rest were obsolete. So we couldn't go to war at the time. We had to wait till we updated our equipment. So agents of the government went to Northrop Aircraft Company and Douglas and Boeing and said, we want you to double the size of your factories because we're going to be building a lot of airplanes. And they said, and when the war ends, what do we do with those big factories that we doubled? Well, the government said, well, we'll pay for it. So they use American money, the taxpayers' money, the people's money, to extend 65% of all American industry paid for by you. They didn't pay for it. After the war, they gave it to them for 3 cents on the dollar. We owned all the production methods in America, the public, and they gave it to them for 2 cents, 3 cents and 1 cent on the dollar. They gave away the public thing. Then they said we need aluminum. You have to look this up on the internet. All the housewives brought their aluminum pots to centers and donated them. Did they cut the price of airplanes? No, nothing. We pay the same amount. Today, we pay $1 billion for airplanes. They're very expensive. And every year you have to update them. And the war industries make a lot of money. Only if they were owned by the government, by you, would there be no profit in war. I don't think there'd be war if you took the profit out. We are fighting for oil, not to bring democracy there. We don't even have it here. Would you mind getting me a glass of water? Thank you.
You're going to have to start all over again when these people come.
Glass of water. Thank you. So I just want to tell you things I didn't think you knew. And if you know the same things I went through, then you say there's something wrong with the culture. Well, what would the culture be like? Would it be controlled by scientists? No. We do a global survey of all the world's resources. That will tell us and the condition, the physical condition of all the people in the world. Tuberculosis, AIDS, cystic fibrosis, heart disease. That tells us, after the global survey, that tells us how many hospitals we need. After the global survey, we know whether we got enough concrete and enough steel to build schools all over the world. You understand what I mean? So it's a global survey that gives us the parameters of design, not someone's opinion. You don't build a school or an airport. First you do a survey to see what you got. How many hospitals? I don't know. After the survey, we know. Now, here's how the country is run. Let me pull this out of the way. And if you don't understand this, you have to let me know you didn't get it, okay? These buildings have to do with public health. Public health means nutrition, medicine, surgery, taking care of the environment, everything. To get good nutrition, you can't grow carrots on exhausted soil. They'll be deficient in keratin. You understand what I mean? So this has to do with public health, the whole of public health. This, if you work here, you can live here, look, if you choose to. You don't have to, you can live any place, but it's convenient.
Right.
This is access to books, free, like the public library. Before the public library, people fought against it. They said if you give them books for nothing, they wouldn't buy books. That would hurt the book business. Well,
do you think all books should, do you think books should be continued to be printed on paper? I mean...
No, I don't. I'm just telling you this story. So, the kids, once they got the library in, people read a little bit and they bought more books than ever, because they knew more. So they were wrong about that. So here we have a camera center, where any citizen in this community can go in and check out a camera, any kind of camera, just like the public library. So if a kid comes in, say 11 years old, we say, do you know how to use this type of camera? He says, no. We show him how. Then we say, what do you want to do? The kid says, I love animals. Well, bring back the camera, take care of it as best you can, and bring back the photographs and we'll instruct you in light and shade and all that. Here, any musical instruments available, anybody, just like the library. That's the end of most crime. Theft. If you live near a waterfall of drinking water, which is absolutely essential for life, no one steals it.
Can I actually ask you a question on the as far as crime? I do actually believe by eliminating scarcity that you can eliminate most crimes.
Most, yeah.
What about sexually based crimes? Do you believe that there is, in fact, a way to eliminate that?
Yes. Let me describe it. Take Jeffrey Dahmer. You know who he is?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay. Before Jeffrey Dahmer, there was Albert Fish.
Right.
He ate 45 children. The public wanted to tear him to pieces. One succumbed. The rest was said, don't kill him. I want to try to find out the conditions that made Albert Fish. There's a real guy. He wrote a book called
Show of Violence.
Show of Violence by Wortham years ago. It was not a bestseller. So once no, the conditions that make serial killers. And here's what he found out. I know you know nothing about it. I don't think you do. Albert Fish, when he was about 8 years old, was sitting in bed with a heart on. He was touching it. It had no meaning to him, wasn't related. He was just touching his penis. His mother was an old-time Baptist. She came and said, "You're going to burn in hell touching that part of your body. You will burn eternally." She scared the shit out of the kid. And the mother said 2 in the morning he was screaming. And when she came in, he stuck needles in his genitals. He didn't want to go to hell. Can you understand that or not? All right. So he used to take minority kids into the woods and cut their genitals off. Or try to. Minority kids were the only kids he could get hold of. And he was called a monster. He was not a monster any more than the Southerners will lynch a black man for staring at your wife. They didn't have to do anything more. They too, if you want to call them monsters, are monsters. So's every soldier. The machine guns, Japanese. Because they haven't. There's a book called The Secrets of Pearl Harbor. Very hard to get hold of. The Heritage Foundation pulled them out of the library. It's forward written by Admiral Halsey. How we got the Japanese to attack Pearl Harbor. You never heard of that, did you? Okay.
Actually, I've read a lot about how we
Now,
supposedly
another thing you should know about.
Yeah.
The American Japanese were citizens, and we got them all in the concentration camps. Now they say to me, "Yeah, but these goddamn North Koreans," I'm using their language, "building rockets and war machines and big armies, so is China." Well, we got to prepare. They might attack us. I want to show you something again. I don't want you to take my word for anything.
Let's look for it.
I'm sure you never saw this, because it appeared in England. U.S. plans first strike nuclear against 7 countries, and it names them. North Korea, China, all that. What do you expect with a headline like this? I didn't write it. Did you ever see it?
No.
It appeared in England. They charged me $7 for this headline, but I bought it because I don't want people to take my word for anything.
I've heard their preemptive war policy. I didn't know it went as far as nuclear.
Is that good enough reason for them to build stuff? Suppose China said, "We intend to attack America, England, and France. Nuclear. Strike." Well, in the old days it was called a sneak attack. Today it's called preemptive strike.
Yeah.
Sneak attack. So,
Justified somehow.
all right. So, I'm trying to tell you something. I'm trying to tell you your country is full of shit.
Oh, we knew
I
that.
hate to do that. You know, that's
Don't
what
worry,
it
you're
is.
not fragile. You're not shattering my
Come back to
fragile
your
world.
questions. Let me stay with your question.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna try to.
I'm not trying to avoid questions. I'm trying to fill in what I think you don't know anything about.
Oh, actually, okay. You were talking a little while ago about.
I can turn those people around to the serial killers.
Yeah.
They got it from the environment. It may take longer, but they ought not to be killed. No one ought to be killed or manhandled. They're all perfectly well adjusted where they're coming from.
So you think more or less they? I mean,
We will
you could
redesign the
study
environment.
them.
We're going to redesign the environment so it doesn't produce serial killers. Now, if a person has a damaged brain due to impact or disease, there are such a thing as that, where a person kills people. Well, they're not responsible. They belong in a hospital city. But we will filter all that out very early in civilization. So you don't have to.
But it's funny, he asked a question.
Yes.
It said, "Is there such thing as too much conditioning?" And you said, "No, there is not." But then, isn't it you're doing exactly
Yes.
what they did, but in reverse?
I didn't say there's
You're
not
doing-
too much conditioning. I said we are conditioned to our values, to the ones we have now, directly and indirectly.
But what's stopping the next person from coming along after you've, brought brought them down a little bit and made them how it should be. Somebody else coming around and trying to undo what you just did.
Okay.
Well, if they get both
I gotta
sides, they
answer
can
your
probably
question.
figure that out.
If I die, say, and we never make the motion picture, it'll revert back to where it used to go. War, depression, boom, bust. If we don't get this motion picture out there, it'll revert back. I cannot affect your behavior too much because you go back into a culture where you got to make a living. Are you married?
No.
Or then you get married, you have kids, and now you're trapped. You got to support the kids. You can't afford to think socially, get out and protest.
Oh, I'm already there.
So you go, it reverts back. The system will revert back if I can't get enough people. If PJ doesn't get enough people, it'll revert back. I have no power. Now, you say, well, why should your conditioning be the right one? Because it wipes out the slums, does away with war, invites all the nations to participate, and there are no hungry, poor people, and we diminish most crimes. If you don't like that, tell me. Say, well, how would you stop this? How would you stop? You really question the hell out of me. I want you to do that, because that's the way I learn. See, I learn. Our system is not afraid of criticism. I know you don't even know there was a motion picture called The March of Time. Did you ever hear of it?
No.
All right, it was about 50 years ago, the last time I've seen it. And they sent a bunch of people to Russia to see what the communists were doing. When they got to Russia, they said, we don't believe in communism. We think the free enterprise system will generate more incentive than communism, collectivism. But we wish you the best of luck on your new, unusual social experiment. I love that attitude. Now, what the hell are you afraid of? If communism is so inefficient, it'll fall,
Right.
Let it fall. What are you building armament against it for? Because there's a bunch of things they don't want to happen.
If they're
If
afraid
Castro
of it, it's probably because they were
succeeds,
afraid of it
it'll
succeeding.
spread through Latin America if Castro succeeded. So we formed a blockade so Castro couldn't succeed. But he sent doctors all over the world, free of charge. Are you aware of that? To help the undeveloped countries. Che Guevara's a nice guy, but he doesn't know what to do. Castro doesn't know what to do. So I went to Cuba years ago, and I said, I've come to help. They said, why do you want to help? You're an American. I said, no, I'm not. I'm a citizen of the world. I'll help any country. So they said, well, how can you help? We don't have money, Mr. Fresco. You know, that's the way they spoke. So they said, I said, I want to see Fidel Castro. They said, he's cutting the sugarcane with the other workers. He's a nice guy. He's out there working in the field. So I said, I must see Fidel. He's 99 miles away. I can't see him. So I went to the University of Havana. I said, I've come here to help you. He said, Senor Fresco, we don't have the money in America how to help. I says, Russia's giving you $1 million a day. You don't know what to do with it. All you do is jack up a car and put a belt on the rear wheel, and you can process sugar cane. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you? You take the power off the rear wheel of a car to run a unit that will crush and squeeze sugar cane. You see the men carrying the bananas down the hill? Build a clothesline, hang the bananas on, and the boxes will go up while the bananas come down. You can free these guys. So I showed them how to use technology that they have to upgrade it fast. They said, oh, you have to see Fidel. I said, I can't see him. You have to get to him. Anyway, I never get to see him, okay? We were invited to China a couple of years ago. They said, Jacque, we want you to design new cities, a theme park, everything. But before that, we were invited to Dubai. You know what I'm talking about? Where they built Palm Islands in the water, Dubai.
Okay.
Arab Emirates.
Very advanced. 10 years ago, they were desert Arabs. Today, there's skyscrapers, desalination plants, modern architecture. Wait till these people get here. All these people are normal, meaning fucked up, okay? They come from a given culture, and I mean that. So I got to talk to them again.
Do you want to turn this off? Because we're going to We're going to set up a camera.
We have a survey committee. The survey committee takes samples of the soil from all over the world, and we have agricultural centers. They bring the soil there and they examine it. And the agronomist, the scientific agriculture, says, by the contents of this soil, it's best to grow beets for 3 years, then rotate to sugar cane. That's not an opinion, that's a finding. No opinions anymore. See? So that's how we arrive at decisions. We don't make them. So somebody said to me, yeah, but what if a guy wants to build a swept forward wing and another guy swept back? Who decides? He was angry. So I said, we build swept forward, swept back, because we don't have to worry about it. How much will it cost? Do we have the resources? They always look at this city and say, how much will it cost to build? Do we have the resources? Yes, we do. More than enough resources. So that's not how much will it cost. That's the old question in a money system. Do you understand that answer?
Yes.
Who makes the decisions? Okay. Now, somebody said to me, what if a guy wants to take more than what is allowable? First of all, people don't move into these new cities. They go to an orientation center first. Don't let that scare you. Let me tell you what it means. It describes how the city works, where you can access food, where you can pick up information in the area. It's just like if you want to fly an airplane, they don't put you in an airplane. They put you in a unit and you move the controls first, just to get the feel of it. Then when they bring you over to an airplane, they say the first thing you check is the tires. And you check the air pressure and you check the movement of the controls, make sure they all work. And then you sit in that plane for a little while, get familiar with the instrument. You can't move normal, means fucked up, people into this city and expect to have a decent world. You can't. Or any more than you can become an engineer without going through a specialized environment called the university. The university is an environment that specializes in how to be an engineer, an architect, or whatever. So we want to change the global environment and make a global university. All cities with a university. You don't have to have money. You can go to any school you want to, take up any subject you want to. And no decisions are made by people. People tried communism, they screwed up. They tried socialism, screwed up. Free enterprise, corrupt. France, England, all corrupt. So I want to move people out of government, including myself. Okay, so you understand. The second picture up there is the government of the future. That globe with the image screens all around it.
Right there.
It's a computerized government. Here's how it works. If you don't understand this, interrupt me. If you don't interrupt me, it's your fault. Don't accept a word I say. Okay. Now, one of those units that you see around the globe is a computer that is responsible for agriculture in a given area. I'll tell you what that means. The computer has its electrical tentacles into the soil. So if the water table drops, that pumps water out there. You don't got a guy with a bucket of water. And all the nutrients in the soil are measured electronically. If they diminish, it pumps nutrients out there. You don't need a guy with a telephone. 50 years ago, that was great. Department of Agriculture. Today, you can automate that. Just as you get cigarettes and Coke from machines, you can automate all department stores. I don't want a young girl standing behind the counter. What can I do for you, ma'am? 15 years, the best years of her life, selling cosmetics. Is that using her head? Is that using education? No. That's abuse of human beings. This system and all other governments are abusive. That's a very hard thing to sell without people coming here. They can't pick it up from my books or videotapes alone. That's why you will be asked who makes the decisions. Fresco? No. He has nothing to do with it. Now, why does a city look like this? Some architects don't like this city. Let me explain it to you. Then you tell me how it ought to look. This has to do with public health. If you work, public health is nutrition, surgery, everything. And if you work here, you live here, you don't have to drive to work. This has to do with agriculture. Everything related to food. If you work here, you live here. Here there are plants that cover so you can't see another building. You understand? You live in gardens with lakes and all that. It's the shortest distance to work. But if you build suburbia, where you've got houses all over the place, you have to drive that way, take your kid to school, that way for shopping, that way for medical treatment. What a waste of energy. This makes it convenient for every human being. This is the shopping center. You got to look at these pictures. This has school care, dental care, medical care, schools. Everything these people need is available here. You understand that? Okay. There are no cars in the city. There's a circular transport called a transveyor. That transveyor can move up, down, sideways, any direction. You get in and dial it. There's a place in New York called Radio City. Does that mean anything to you? The Empire State Building?
Yes.
All right. They take 1 million people up and down every year. 1 million. And they never crash, the elevators. So all you do is turn the elevators out that way through the city. You get in and dial where you want to go. You guys didn't see this, he may have. In the old days, people used to operate elevators. They move a crank. They never quite got to the floor. They had to work it up and back. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you? Now you press 17, goes to 17th floor. If you go to any modern airport today, there's a train without people in it that operates it. No conductors, nobody. It stops exactly there. And you can't fall on the tracks. In New York you can be shoved right onto the tracks. They say, we don't know whether he jumped or was pushed. They need a wall, just like an elevator. You can't look down and see if the elevator's coming. They got a wall there that doesn't open until the elevator's there. That's the way the airport works. I talked about that 65 years ago in New York, couldn't get any action. Nothing. To build a wall so you don't fall on the track. Nothing I talked about was against anybody. I didn't want to kill anybody, hurt anybody, put anybody in jail. There are no prisons, no police, no armies, no navies in this system. Because people have access to whatever the hell they need. You can go to the watch center and check out a watch, any kind you like. Free, without payment or obligation. I said, well, where are you going to get the money to give out all that stuff? It costs $50,000 to keep a kid in jail a year. You know how many watches that'll buy? It's cheaper to give a watch. Give them blue jeans, whatever the hell they need. The stupidity of this culture is unbelievable. Okay? I'm talking about the United States and all other societies. I'm not holding it. None of them are any good. Communism, social, don't know what to do. If you put them in power, Ralph Nader's a nice guy, but he doesn't know what to do. He really doesn't. I talked to him. So what do you do? How would you solve that? Nothing. He said, well, at least we are ethical. I don't doubt that. If you had ethical people in government, if you ran out of resources, be lying, cheating, stealing. It isn't ethics that we need, or decency, or honesty. We need the intelligent management of the Earth's resources. Do you know what that means? We don't waste stuff. No. How can everybody have everything? Let me tell you something. When you have over 1 million cars a day sitting around for 8 hours while you're at work, those cars shouldn't be sitting there. They should be used by the people that got off and they go back home. Do you understand what I mean? When they come back, those cars are there for your use. What the hell are you saying? Cars don't need a rest. They don't need to lay around. If you use resources intelligently, everybody will live better than Bill Gates. I mean that. How many of you have a laptop? Will you raise your hand? Okay. Did you know that 10 years ago a laptop would cost $10 million? What it does? So when I say every person in a high-tech society will live better than the wealthiest people today, you are stupid to design things to wear out and break down. You're wasting resources. Do you understand? Now, if the automobile companies had to service their cars, they don't. It's your job. I can assure you, they'd have two handles. You turn down, pull the engine out like a dresser's drawer, shove in a courtesy engine and lock it. This way you'll take it apart,
Interchangeable.
that's because that's on you. It's so sabotaged against well-being of people, and the public doesn't know what's missing. And I have difficulty getting on TV. Can you understand that? It wasn't until Zeitgeist that we're getting thousands of phone calls, and even being invited to Dubai, I wasn't able to do what they wanted. They wanted me to design the tallest building in the world, the best theme park, a new city. When I got there, every building was a different size, designed by a different architect. Ego. And I said, your city isn't going to go anywhere, it's not going to work. So they said, well, why don't you go look at our world? So they flew us over, and Roxanne and I, took us to the Palm Islands they made in the sea, all that. I said, you're depending on tourists. There's an economic depression coming ahead where you won't have the tourists, and it's not going to work. And I told them, why do you want to build the tallest building in the world? It's to build a sustainable culture. So they took me to a water desalination plant, the biggest in the world. They said, we didn't make drinking water. I said, what do you do with the water? We built a water park where people slide down a hill. Here's a desert country, has the most need for water. Build a water park. And so I said, your culture won't work. And I left. Now, really, the people in charge were so stupid, and I had such a short period of time, I couldn't do anything because they put a 22-year-old kid in charge of me out there. And he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Okay? So, then we were invited to China. They wanted me to design the new best cities in the world, and they said, we want to bring the best brains from all over the world to China to make the best country in the world. So when I got there, I was told that I would address 1,500 students at a university. It never came off. They gave us return tickets, but they did not give that to the other guests. The guy that invited us out ran away with the money. So I never had that lecture in China. It never came off. And I had to leave. I want you to know what happened. Then they invited us to Vienna, and they gave me 10 minutes to present the concept, because they had a whole bunch of we call orthodox college professors, 10 minutes, I couldn't do a thing. Do you understand that? Then they invited us to Iceland. They gave us 15 minutes. Couldn't do a thing. No way. You understand? So we left Iceland. Iceland is collapsing now. So is Dubai, collapsing. The guy that designed the cities in the sea told me they're sinking. Okay, I just want you to know what happened. I've tried, but I need people like you going out there talking to other people. Well, this guy wants to build utopia. I don't believe in utopia. You know that. You can't design the best television set. You can only design the best you can design with what we know up to now. 2 years from now, it'll be different. Does that make sense? This is not utopia. This city that I design will be a straitjacket to the kids of the future.
Right.
They'll design their own cities. But if you make a statue of Fresco and put it here, you hold them back. So there are no heroes, no great people in the future. Just people that make contributions. I want to tell you again how the city works. If you work in a medical center, you live here. If you work in education, you live here. The center building has medicine, dental care, shopping, everything people need. So you don't need to drive in the different directions. Suburbia wastes fuel. You build it way out. Why do you build way out? Because the land is cheaper. If you try to build it in the city, it costs you too much. So you build it far, that's a lot of fuel, a lot of traffic. Good for the car companies. And the government builds roads because the car companies influence that. What we need is an adequate transportation system. We can go anywhere in that city within 15 minutes by dialing where you want to go, just like an elevator. take you to any floor. When you turn them out this way, take you anywhere in the city. Now, there is such a thing, I want you to understand conventional things, like you have parking lots, you have delivery of steel. When you figure the cost of a car or coal, you better figure out the lives lost, men going down into the ground. You have to factor in everything, not just the cost of coal. Yes. You have a question?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just
okay. Fine. Do you understand what I'm saying? Any questions about that?
I guess
Okay.
one question I have is
Sure.
just in my relating it to like a city like say New York, like relating it to a city like New York or Miami. Would these cities be sort of transformed, or would they be built around?
We will level all those cities and mine them for steel, glass, whatever we can get. But before we do that, we'll build a new city and move the people into it. But we'll keep some of the old cities as museum cities to show people how they used to live. Now you can learn to like New York because they have songs, New York, New York. Everything is a different size. There's no place for people to gather. Central Park was done a long time ago. It's good. But the cities today just grow tight and they're difficult to manage. In case of fire, you got trouble. You understand? Because the water won't go up the Empire State Building. So you got all kinds of problems. And it just evolves. The city I'm talking about undergoes change. It's designed to come apart or go together, so it can be updated as we go. So if someone says to me, what will the future be like? Well, that depends on how far into the future. You know, because even if I told them, which I think I know it'll be like, they wouldn't like it. If you took your grandmother to Miami Beach and she saw the girls walking around with their butts hanging out because they've gone too far, to her that would be abnormal. To you that's normal. So you can't take normal people and put them in the future and say, do you like it? Of course they wouldn't like it. Ask an Indian, do you want to live in a teepee or do you want to live in a modern building? Oh no, I want to live in a teepee. Eskimo, an igloo. Are they bad people? No. They're just, that's all they know. An Eskimo that never saw movies, or never saw pictures of anything else, never can dream of walking on Miami Beach with the palm trees. Do you understand that? Unless you read about it, see a movie on it. Neither can any person in a given society really think very far outside that society. You want to try some more questions till the girls get here?
Oh, real quick. How big would something like this be? If you said if you were here, you can get over there, the furthest point away in less than 15 minutes.
This one is a quarter of a mile diameter. Some will be 2 miles diameter. Some will have a population of 1 million. Some will have a population of 30,000, depending how far they are from resources. Do you understand that? Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about an area in Florida called Hialeah. Do you know anything about it?
Hialeah?
Let me just tell you things about it. We'll go to L.A. This represents a factory in L.A. Top view. Okay. This factory orders parts from other factories, but what would be ideal is if they could be near this factory. But once you put up a factory, the value of the land goes up. So the guy that builds the parts for you, he moves to Hialeah where the land is cheaper. So he builds a factory out there. When you build 3 little parts factories, the value of the land goes up. So other people start building out here where the land is cheaper. So to pick up the goods, your freight train has to go all over the place. But if you design a factory like this, center with automobiles, buses, whatever the hell you make, all extend out of a central engineering building. And the freight train goes underneath and picks up all the stuff. You understand what I'm saying here?
More or less, yeah.
You make resources available to everyone. The standard of living goes up for everyone. The amount of accidents are reduced. The amount of travel is reduced. So I'll show you something else, see if you understand it. What I'm about to show you, if you don't get it, Please, don't be polite. I don't get it. Okay? This I want to build all through Florida, Louisiana, all over. No hurricane can pick up an inverted cone. It'll whirl around it, but there's no roof to suck off. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. There's a turbine up here. That is a wind-activated rotor. It rotates and keeps the lights and refrigeration going. So you have food refrigerated. When a hurricane comes, you have a power outage. All of the food spoils in the refrigerators. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There's no overall thinking. You have to think totally as a system, the whole society. So we will build these all through Florida, all through the West Indies. Today, when the hurricane comes, people get in their car, they tell them to leave. Where the hell do you go? The freeways are jammed. You're all going, ask anybody, where are you going? Well, I'm going to go to Louisiana, wherever the hell. It's sick. You understand? So when you say to me, do you want to change the whole of society? Yes, everything in it. It's schools, everything. They're all fucked up using old language, okay? Now, our language was designed hundreds of years ago, so we can't even talk to each other. We talk at each other. When you say something to somebody, it goes through their head and comes out different. That is not true in engineering. When they talk, torsional strength, tensile strength, compression strength, they understand each other. If engineering was subject to interpretation, you couldn't build a bridge.
Right. It
would cave in. And if I designed a bridge and it caved in, I said, this is the will of Allah. They said, bullshit, if your math was off. You understand what I mean? I can't say it's the will of Allah. So what I want you to understand is that the whole thing stinks. Now, how do you do that? How do you get the people without explaining all these things? It's very difficult unless you do a series of films. Just one film will get people to say, that's interesting, but you'll have to fill in, okay? Now, you do any question about this system? Okay. Now, another thing. When a kid goes to school today, if you can see this, this is how the teacher says, we spell cat. Okay, I'm trying to do it up so you can see it, okay? And the kid comes back with this. That's how they spell cat in Holland, by the way. And the teacher says that's wrong. When the teacher says that's wrong, there's no information in that statement. That's wrong. The kid doesn't know what to tell you. What's wrong? He feels bad because the teacher said it was wrong. We say to the kid, very close, isn't it? We just changed this. Not wrong or bad. That isn't what I told you.
So more encouragement than discouragement?
Right. We say very close. We change this to this. And the kid says, oh, and he comes back with this. And I say, much closer, isn't it? We just turn this around, say whatever you have to say, so the A can fit in that. Whatever you have to say. But if you say, that's wrong, that's what I told you, you took the spelling course last week, and all that bullshit is painful. And kids don't learn. So when I say we're going to change everything, I meant school. Now, this is something I've done. I take a 6-year-old from different countries, and I said, will you draw a human being, a person, as you, I get that across, and they draw this at 6. I want to show you how far the Venus Project goes. It's not about new cities. The kid does this, 6 years old. Then I say, is there anything you can add to that picture? And the kid says, yes. And they do this. I'll try it.
I made that exact drawing before.
And I say, is there anything else you'd like to add? And this 6-year-old. I'm sure you've seen that before. Okay? And the teacher gives them a crayon, they color it. And the teacher hangs that up. And I say to the teacher, don't hang that up. And the teacher says, why not? The kid did it. I said, the kid did this too. Why don't you hang that up? Well, because it's not correct. Nothing in the world looks like this. You hang that up and you arrest the kid at that development. So the teacher says, I still don't get it. So I call the kid over and say, how does this guy get in that door? He said, I made him too big. Right away. Makes him smaller. Then I say, does this guy eat anything? He said, I made him too skinny. So right away that kid adds mass. Not very good, but right away. You understand? Just like the teacher. Dumb, she hangs that up. If you bring up kids with Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, and all that crap, fill their head with that first, and then try to make intelligent beings, you got a long way to go. You're creating problems. Introduce yourself. So you guys are going to hear some of this stuff over again.
Oh, that's fine.
It'll help you retain it.